So this is going to be a little bit different of a video. Some people were asking for me to make like some more personal stuff or whatever to get to know me a little bit better. And I do have some stuff planned that I wanted to make. And I figured I could just make this video because it's a quick video, something that's easy to talk about and interesting. So yeah, this is the story of how I almost died. And this took place freshman year. I think it was in October, it was somewhere around there. So it was literally just, like a couple months into my college experience. And I was, I wasn't feeling great, but I wasn't feeling terrible. And I woke up, showered, and I lived on the ninth floor of my dorm room or my dorm building. So I hopped in the elevator, and on the elevator ride down, like I almost passed out. It was so weird because I hopped in, and like I said, like I didn't feel the greatest, but I didn't feel like super sick. But on the elevator ride down, like the doors open, and or like as it was going down, I felt like just a super weird feeling. Like I almost passed out. It was so strange. So the doors open, and I was like, nah, nah. And I closed the doors and just went straight back up and crashed on our futon in our dorm room. So that was kind of funny. But that was on a weekday, obviously, so I was missing classes. And I'm a guy who, last semester I didn't miss a single class. So this was like, I really have to be feeling sick to decide to skip classes. And my roommate, he came back around like dinner time, and I was still just laying down there feeling sick. And he he was like, dude, you got to go to Quick Care, which is just like this quick in and out hospital like checkup type thing. Not hospital, but some doctors, they'll look you over and tell you what's up, then write a prescription. And I was like, I'll give it a couple more hours, and if I'm still not feeling well enough, I'll go get checked out. So a couple hours roll by, definitely not getting any better. Stomach pains, like it's just like hard to walk, kind of just feeling like super fatigued, like just very low energy. And so which is funny because I skipped class just to like lay down because it was too much to walk to the bus and like ride that to class and everything. But I I left the building, hopped on a bus, went over to Quick Care, and then I waited there for a little bit. The wait there actually wasn't too bad. I think it was because they were close to like closing or whatever. But I got in to talk to a doctor, and he was like checking me out, like feeling my stomach and stuff. And he's like, "Oh wow, like your spleen is really enlarged, so you should definitely go to the hospital." Or what he said was, "Don't go to sleep. You need to go to the hospital." So it's like, he said, if you go to sleep, there's like a good chance you'll die. So that was interesting. I guess enough motivation to go to the hospital, which actually wasn't too bad because there was my dorm, and then literally like across the street was the hospital with like the ER and everything. So that really wasn't that bad. But yeah, waited for a bus, which was a stupid long wait because it was getting late in the afternoon. So the bus routes weren't that frequent. So had to wait like half an hour, hop back on a bus, rode it back to the dorms, and then walked to the ER. And I waited in the ER for like 3 hours. It was ridiculous. I was just sitting there. And it was also funny because I was sitting in the ER, which was packed, like tons of people sitting there. And I was probably sitting there for like 45 minutes until they called me in and like looked at me quick, like why I was there. And then they made me wear this medical mask. So like I'm sitting in this room full of people for like an hour, and then I leave, put on this medical mask, and then come back out. So like everybody's probably like, whoa, why'd this guy not have it before? Am I going to get sick and die or something? So yeah, that's kind of funny. But yeah, I sat there for like another 2 hours, and if you've ever been in the ER, that's like no fun. But yeah, at this point I was really feeling sick. Like, I don't know, it was hard to move. Like, instead of like walking or anything, I just kind of like shuffle around because I was in so much pain, and it was weird, like very, very low energy. But yeah, those 3 hours went by, and they finally got me in to see a doctor. And they like loaded me up on a stretcher and brought me in like to some different rooms and whatnot. Asked me a bunch of questions, and it was like scaring me. They asked me if I had like HIV and stuff. Bunch of different questions, and then they actually put me through a CAT scan, or I think it's an MRI. I think it was an MRI because I want to say CAT scans for your brain. But anyway, it was one of those. Almost certain it's an MRI, but it was super weird because they give you this ultraviolet shot, and they tell you before, they're like, we're gonna give you this shot and it's gonna make you feel like you peed your pants. And I was like, all right, that's weird. So they give me the shot and it really felt like I was like I pissed my pants. It just like felt really warm, especially like down towards my pee area. But I kept that pee stored in my balls. But yeah, they put you on this table and then it loads you into this like dome thing, and the dome thing spins and checks you out. So they got that back, and this was like still, I'd been there for a couple hours like in that room with doctors just like looking at me, putting me through the MRI, reading results and everything, and they still didn't know what was going on. They like bounced a couple ideas back and forth, and like I said, they like spooked me. They're like, do you have like HIV or anything? And I was like, whoa. But yeah, I guess they didn't know what like the official diagnosis was, but they said that I had internal bleeding, which was why I was feeling so unwell. I guess internal bleeding will do that to you. So that's what was wrong with me. But it took them a while longer to figure out what it actually was. I wasn't even in like a hospital bed, like, you know, once you get transferred to an actual room, like you get the bed. I was on one of those just like tables where you go into the doctor's room and you like sit down, where, you know, you can lay down on it definitely, but it's not a bed, like not even anything close to a bed. So that really sucked. And I was there for one night, and throughout the night people would come in and like they'd take my blood. I'm not sure if they gave me an IV at this point. I think they probably did already give me an IV at this point. Like I said, you know, nurses, they'd be in and out like all night taking my blood, giving me IVs, and it sucked. Like I had 3 IVs in me, I think. I want to say it was 3. They had like 3 different injection points where, you know, they had something sticking out, which really did not feel great. You know, I'm not a huge fan of needles, so them just like them just like constantly prodding me was not cool. I mean, I feel like maybe it got worse later on, or like I noticed it more later on. But I went on my Snapchat and I was like, just like a picture of me in the hospital. I was like, I might not make it or whatever. And then it's funny because that night my phone died, and moving forward, I had an OtterBox on my phone, and honestly, I'd never taken the OtterBox off. And I guess you have to take like a quarter and pry it open, and like I'd never done that, so I didn't know. And also, I was like, I had internal bleeding, and I was like on my deathbed, so I was just chilling, not trying to like figure anything out. So the nurses did have a charger, but it wouldn't fit with my OtterBox on, so my phone was dead for the time, like that first night until I left. Which, that being said, I was there for 5 days. I think I was hospitalized, and so after the first day, or like well into the first night, maybe like the first morning, I'm not too sure when it was, they brought down a stretcher, or I guess it wasn't a stretcher. I think this was like the actual hospital bed because they are mobile. So they brought one of those down and they loaded me onto it, and then they brought me up, and it sucked because they put me in the children's section of the hospital. At the time I was 18, so I don't know if that like factored into it or if that's just where they had open. But they put me into the children's part of the hospital, which moving forward, like at night, there'd be a ton of babies crying, so it was really hard to sleep. And then also on top of that, like I was saying, nurses would come in and out throughout the night and draw my blood. So it's like fresh shots, getting my blood taken. And yeah, that was sleep was hard. They finally did figure it out. They diagnosed me with mono. I forgot, like the monoclosis or something. I don't know. But yeah, everybody knows what mono is. I didn't even get it the fun way. Mono is like the kissing disease or whatever. So a lot of people pass it through that. I just got it from like sharing a cup. But yeah, in the hospital, like I said, I was there for 5 days. So I spent the 4 days or whatever in the actual hospital room where I was just chilling. I had a TV, and I didn't have like a partner or anything, or I didn't have anybody else in the room with me or anything, so I guess it wasn't that bad. Like I got it all to myself. Like I had an attached bathroom, which I'd like get up and just kind of like shuffle over to the bathroom. And oh, dude, that whenever I went pee, they made me go into this like a thing that caught it because they'd like test my pee or whatever, and it was gross because I was so dehydrated. Like my pee would be almost brown, so that was disgusting. But they made me do that, which was no fun. They had me in the hospital gown, like I had my boxers on underneath, but yeah, like that's the state I was in. My room did have a shower, but like I didn't have enough strength to take a shower, so I was just booling, getting kind of gross. They said like me being healthy, I shouldn't have gotten hit that hard with the mono. It was just kind of like a freak accident. You know, usually people when they get mono, they just like feel tired for a couple days and then they're fine. Um, but yeah, it just like tore me apart, and my spleen, which is what mono affects, it enlarges it. So my spleen just got like really big. If I like lifted up my shirt and showed you like by my ribs, you'd be able to see my spleen at that time. Thank God since then it's like gone back to normal. But yeah, so my spleen was, you know, just swelling so much, and I don't think it ruptured. I'm pretty sure rupturing is just when it like actually like bursts, and then that's when it's really serious. Uh, you need to get like operated on, or else you'll die at that point, I think. So mine wasn't there, but it was getting really big, and that's why I had the internal bleeding because it was, you know, getting so large. There's also some funny stuff that happened from it. Just like chilling there, you know, I was in there for a couple days. My phone was dead, couldn't do anything, and then all I had was like a TV in my room, so I just watched what was. I would just watch whatever was on TV. I think they had like basic cable. So one of the channels had Frozen on, and I started watching part of that, and then one of the nurses came in and just like gave me a hard time, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm just stuck here. And they wouldn't like I said, they wouldn't even let me leave until my fever went down, because that's one of the symptoms. So yeah, like I couldn't even leave. Also, they wouldn't let me eat because I think the medication for the first couple days or something, they just wouldn't let me eat. So I was on a strict popsicle only diet for the first 3 or 4 days, and then they finally let me eat. I think I started off with like fruit. But yeah, like it was funny because since the only thing I could eat were popsicles, like it'd be midnight and a nurse would come in, or you know, like 2 or whatever in the morning, a nurse would come in to draw my blood, and I'd be like, hey, can you give me a popsicle? And then be like, yeah. So like I just had the popsicles on the low. On the day that I was leaving, one of the nurses knew how to open up the OtterBox iPhone case, so they came in, did that, and they got my phone charging. But you know, it was like the last day. Like this was, I think, 2 or 3 hours before I was leaving, before my mom was supposed to arrive, and I could actually be discharged from the hospital, which was, you know, a glorious moment. And yeah, like I turned on my phone and like I had a bunch of notifications because, like I said earlier, I put up that Snapchat. I was like, yo, this might be the end or whatever, something like that. Um, so yeah, I had like a bunch of notifications. People like, oh, dude, you all right? And then my roommate, like I said, also, you know, I couldn't contact him. And then some other people on my floor, they're just like, oh my God, are you all right and everything? And I was like, yeah, I'm getting released later, so everything's all good. But the results of that were, I want to say 3 months, I couldn't like work out or do any strenuous activity. So also I ran the chance of injuring my spleen because it was still like enlarged, and it took those 3 months for it to swell back down. But yeah, like over that time, you know, I'd still get like every now and then sharp pains in my spleen. So that wasn't good. I was sick and hospitalized for a week. Then after that, I wasn't able to like move around much more. So I went back home from where I was at in college, and I just rested for a week, and then I went back to college and continued everything. So, you know, I missed 2 weeks of classes, which was really rough, and it showed on my grades too. Like my grades were rough that semester. So that was a interesting introduction to college. Looking back on it, like a lot of the times when I talk about this, when I tell people about it, I'm not really like mad that it happened. I don't even mind that it happened. You know, it was a really good life experience. If like, I feel like that's a weird way to put it, but you know, it was a really interesting experience. Like, you know, almost dying, I guess, and I don't know, it makes for a good story. So there's also a lot more that goes into this story, but I just like, I don't know how comfortable I am with talking about that stuff. This is just kind of more the like facts like the base layer and whatnot. So yeah, I'm not mad that happened. I don't mind it. Yeah, that's about it. And I'm here today. I survived. They patched me back up, not really, but you know, all they did was just stick a bunch of needles in me and feed me popsicles. But it brought me here so I can bring you guys videos twice a week and live streams on the weekends. So, you know, applaud them a little bit. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'm glad you're here.